teach last time and it didn't get recorded. Hey, good morning, Hancock. Thank you for being here. I guess by the time you see this, it'll really be afternoon. We're doing a little different version of our live forum. We're doing it on tape, live on tape, just like Stephen Colbert. So I want to start off by just thanking everyone for all the work that's been going on around campus. We really changed the odds this past 2 weeks. Moving classes online. I'm hearing from students about how appreciative they are of keeping the classes going. I'm hearing from faculty members who are excited by a new modality, even if they're a little bit scared of it. We're hearing the students are trying to help you out, so that's a great part of it. The students want you to be successful. We know that that's true across the board. So I think we're making great progress for the rest of the semester. We've got 7 weeks to go, and I think we're going to make it to the end of the semester. I know there's a lot of questions out there. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to have a format that rolls through. Dr. Curry is going to talk about academic affairs, and then Dr. Ornelas will talk about student services. Dr. Speck will talk about our technology area, and then I'll come back and finish up for Ruben Ramirez and HR. You should know that we're doing the social distancing, and we're following all the best practices from the CDC and the County Department of Health. We have managers who are working remotely from home because they have underlying conditions or family members that are at risk. And in this room right now, we have 5 people in here, plus our interpreter. So we want to thank Julia Townsend for being here to do that. And then Elaine Schneppel is going to sub in and help out with that as well. So we're grateful for that that ongoing work. So, you know, it's an amazing time to be a public servant. And, you know, we usually when you hear the phrase public servant, it's in some sort of a pejorative, but I'm proud to be a public servant, and I'm proud to work with some of the best public servants in the whole state of California. The work you're doing to keep our students going is truly amazing, and I'm proud to be a public servant, and when we're all done with this, our community is going to look back on how Hancock College stepped up in a crisis and really helped keep things going and prepared our students for their next step in their either going to a career or to transfer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Curry, and we'll let him walk through his slides, and then he'll turn it over to Dr. Nellis. Thanks.
All right, good morning. Give you a couple of updates about academic affairs. I guess I want to first echo what President Walters just said. It's been pretty amazing to see the transformation over just 2 weeks. You know, higher education gets a bad rap about not being nimble, not being able to make changes fast. I think what you've all accomplished over the last 2 weeks it points out that that's not necessarily true. You know, while we wouldn't maybe describe what we're doing as perfect, I think everybody's doing a great job. We're doing the best we can, and I think you probably see over time that it's getting better week by week, and I'm sure your students are. I just want to give you a sense of what we are doing what we're doing with our instruction, and I wanted to talk about how we've been tracking all the changes. So we have, you know, more than 1,000 courses, you know, 1,500 if you count all the different kinds of courses this semester that we've offered. And that includes credit courses, concurrent enrollment courses, which are our courses taught with our partners at the high schools, non-credit courses, or fee-based courses, and then lastly, the different kinds of instructional service agreements that we have in contract education, some of which is credits and most of which is non-credit. So a lot of different kinds of courses that we offer every semester and through the year. And so tracking all of those, we created a master inventory. The deans have been managing that. And we've used that to track the numbers a little bit. So let me share with you what we've done in credit. So in credit, we've got 7 courses that are still in progress, and those are in law enforcement and the health sciences. These are obviously essential sectors, and it's critical that we continue to the degree that we can to produce graduates who are ready to work in those areas. We canceled 17 courses in credit. Most of these were term 4 classes that were face-to-face and couldn't be converted to online easily, but in most cases, though, they hadn't yet started when we canceled those courses. We suspended 39 courses, and let me talk about that term because you may have heard it used a few times. The Chancellor's Office gave out guidance that we've been following to identify how we're going to treat each of our courses, whether to suspend them, whether to cancel them, to transition them to online or to remote learning, or to suspend them, which is to say suspend instruction, wait until we're able to bring students back, and then start instruction back up again. So in credit, we've suspended 39 courses. These are largely in lab and CTE areas where it's just impossible to teach these things. You can't teach some things in an online environment. And so we've suspended them. I have to commend the faculty. They've been very flexible and really tried to do everything that they could to make sure their students will be successful and will be able to complete their coursework. So thank you to all those faculty who've sort of been hanging with us as we worked out the details of how a suspended or postponed course would work. I think we have that worked out. We're talking with the faculty associations on that. And then finally, the bulk, 90% of our classes, more than 90% of our classes were actually transitioned to what we like to describe as remote instruction or remote learning. And the reason I'm using that term intentionally is different from kind of the traditional terms of distance learning or distance education, is that even though they are forms of distance learning, it'll be important for us to figure out how these courses are different from distance learning courses, which typically are asynchronous. They're not taught synchronously, and they are approved by our faculty process for approving distance learning courses. So I know that AP&P and faculty and the Senate have been talking about, or will be talking about, how to address these courses going forward. But we've transitioned 748 courses out of our credit side, so pretty amazing. Likewise, concurrent enrollment, our high school partners, they've been challenged just as we all have to move everything remote, and so they're doing that at their site. Well, not at their sites, they're doing that for their courses. For non-credit, we had to cancel 24 classes. Again, those were mostly classes that were in the future at the time. They were term 4 classes or started after term 4. And we suspended 137 classes. A lot of those will probably not be done exactly the same way we're doing the credit side, but a lot of times we had sites closed off early on in the pandemic before any orders were issued to shelter at home. And so we've been suspending those courses for a while. And then lastly, we've been able to transition 68 courses to remote learning. A lot of questions have come up about summer. I think I have questions about summer, I think, that can't be answered yet. But I can tell you what we do know. And we are planning and talking about summer all the time. So our plan is to move forward with summer instruction. We moved the go live day, which is the date that classes are available in the class search. We moved that up by 1 week, or back by 1 week, to April 20th. But this is only going to include online courses. So right now, this week, department chairs and deans are working on transforming. We lost a week of summer. It was an 8-week summer. We lost a week because we pushed back our own semester by 1 week. And so, excuse me, now we have to squeeze those face-to-face classes into 7 weeks. So we have done some of that work. The chairs are looking at their courses and trying to fit them into a new schedule. It's a 7-week schedule. All the while recognizing that we don't know where we're going to be on June 15 when summer actually begins. And so in about 3 weeks out, we will be looking at where we are in summer, and if we're anywhere close to where we are now, we'll have to reconsider whether or not that's a viable option. We know that students want to take on face-to-face classes. We know those classes, largely in STEM, are classes students seek face-to-face. So we'll offer them if we can, but That's kind of our contingency, that we'll either have to be prepared to move those into a remote teaching style, again, like this semester, or to pull them from the schedule if we get to that point. So that's where we are with summer. And similarly with fall, we're planning ahead. We haven't changed our fall schedule. I think it's too soon to know how this is going to play out. I think another month of this will tell us a little more about the long-term trajectory of the pandemic. But for now, it's a little bit too soon to say. So we're moving forward, but we're also engaging with Senate. I know Senate's engaging with itself to talk about how we deal with this new reality. And a couple of things to think about that I might leave you with. One is that the Chancellor's Office has allowed us to issue what they're calling a blanket distance learning, emergency blanket distance learning addendum, which allows us to offer all of our courses this semester in remote instruction. Similarly, they've just sent out this past week, they sent out guidance that we now have the permission to offer an emergency addendum to offer our other courses in summer and in fall using remote instruction. So those are available to us. However, we don't know, again, what the long-term trajectory of this pandemic will be. We don't know if next spring we are going to face this. So I think it's going to be worthwhile for faculty to think about if your course is not approved for distance learning, if it's an appropriate course for distance learning and you've been on the fence about whether to do it, that might be something you want to consider doing and moving your course through that process. But I think Senate can look at other options too. What I'm thinking of is if we want to think about an internal process for just making sure that we're doing the best we can when we setting up some infrastructure and some other things to think about curriculum-wise to make sure that if we have to do this again, that we'll be ready to offer instructors a little bit more structure as to how to do it. So those are just some things to think about. I have many opinions on the subject, but I know faculty will also have a lot of ideas about how to make that work. So that's the end of my segment. I'm going to pass this on to Dr. Ornelas, who's going to talk about student services.
All right. Well, I'd like to say hello to everybody. I know I've been able to be in a few meetings with some of you virtually, and it's really nice to see everybody's faces. And we miss seeing people on campus, but we're trying to do the best that we can. And so the first thing I'd just like to say is, we've done a really great job at coming together as a college, and student services faculty and staff have been working around the clock to try to figure out how to continue services, not only to students, but to you as well as faculty and staff members. So the first thing that I will start on is our calendar update. I think as Dr. Curry mentioned, there have been some modifications and adjustments to the calendar, and one thing that we've done with the calendar is we have pushed back the spring semester by a week. So we will have a new revised schedule for finals week, which I believe Academic Affairs has been sending communication to faculty about. And we also have a late start for summer. And what I mean by late start for summer is that summer start date has also been pushed back a week. So we will begin summer session on June 15th. We also have a revised final schedule as well for summer. Summer session will be 6 weeks or 7 weeks, and academic affairs deans and department chairs are working on developing that schedule for us to be able to access it on April 20th. So we've been asked a lot of questions about registration. Are we still going to have registration? So our goal is to continue to have registration on the day that it was planned, which is May 4th. So student services staff have been gearing up for that. We're continuing to offer our services for our upcoming class, which is our high school graduates as well as our adults. We had a Bridges to Success meeting last week, which was a virtual meeting with our high school counselors and our partners. So our goal is to continue to offer those services virtually. We've also received a lot of questions about commencement, and we know how important commencement is, not only to our students, but their families and our faculty and staff. And I just want to let you know that we will have more information regarding commencement in the upcoming weeks, and we do plan on sharing this information with faculty and staff. So please stay tuned on that, and we will continue to plan for that, whatever that may look like. So with all of our services being remote, I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like, because we often think about our services only to students, and as faculty we know that you need to communicate with our student services staff as well. So what we've done is we've all gone to using Cranium Cafe, and as a faculty member or staff member, you actually can log on to your portal and you will see the icon that's circled on the screen, and that is the Cranium Cafe icon. Once you click on that, you will be able to see a full directory of individuals who can help you. And we've shared this information with our students, but I also want to share it with you that we're still providing services through Cranium Cafe for you as faculty members. All of our emails and our phone numbers are also accessible, so if you call an extension, you should be able to reach the person that you're trying to get a hold of. We also updated our websites, so our websites have some information for you. If you do not wish to log on to Cranium Cafe through your portal, you can be able to chat with staff online, or you can refer your students to do that. So I also just provided a screenshot of a sample of one of our websites. So we're really trying to make sure that we're able to reach out to students in so many different ways. We know that our students are hands-on and they like the interaction with us, so we want to try to maintain that as much as possible. We've also been asked about academic accommodations through our Learning Assistance Program, and I know that LAP staff and faculty and our director, Dr. Crosby, have been working closely with departments and with the faculty members to ensure that students have their reasonable accommodations for their class. So if you do have any questions or any concerns about that, please contact their office, and they will be able to make sure that we're meeting not only the needs of the students, but your needs as well. We also have some resources that are available for free, some software. So if you are interested in using that in your classroom, feel free to share that information with your students. There's been questions about Wi-Fi and access to campus, and I know we've been trying to figure out alternative solutions for our students who just do not have access to technology or computers at home. I'm happy to share that we have opened up 2 labs. One is in the ARC, the Academic Resource Center here at the Santa Maria campus. The other one is in Building 1 in the Lompoc Valley Center. So those are open to students, and we will be maintaining social distancing as well as developing a schedule for students to be able to access those labs. Students can call that extension, the 4950, or they can also email the Dean of Academic Affairs who's over that, which is Mary Patrick. We've also been asked questions about printing and meeting students who do not have access to printers at home. Campus Graphics is providing that service to students free of charge. So if you do have students who are unable to access printing or need to print materials, please refer them to Campus Graphics, and they'll be able to get those free of charge to students. The other thing that we wanted to share is that we're trying to reach out to students virtually on a regular basis. Students have had a lot of questions, and sometimes they also just want to connect with one another. They've been at home, they have a lot of anxiety over what their classes are going to look like. And so each program and department will be providing weekly updates through Zoom just to connect with students, but also to provide any important college updates. That information is available on our COVID-19 page as well. I think we're going to try to have those sessions on Fridays throughout the day to ensure that students, that isn't interfering with the classes that students are scheduled to take. We're also looking at revising some of our policies and procedures and our processes. Because of the situation, our current situation, we know that there's extensions have to be made, timelines have to be extended, and that we may have to adjust some of our policies and processes. So all of our student services forms are going to be converted so that students can complete them and submit them electronically. We also are looking at specific areas such as the pass, no pass, grading option, the excused withdrawal, and student refunds. So we will continue to communicate that information. I know that we're going to have some conversations with faculty as well related to some of these areas. So please continue to check our website for updates, and we will hopefully get some information out to you because we know a lot of students have been asking about this information. We also have a lot of students right now that are dealing with our food insecurities, housing insecurities. Many students and families have lost their employment, and we did launch our basic needs office last fall, and we're hoping to ensure that students are getting services and support through the basic needs office. So we do have Andrea, who is helping us with the calls with the students and also doing referrals. We also have Stephanie Robb, who is helping in this area as well. So we do have emergency funds that are available for students. The application is online. We are able to disperse funds or awards to students electronically. So we will continue to do that. We've had over 150 requests for emergency funds in this last week. We also have our food distribution that has been taking place here on the Santa Maria campus. The food distribution is open to any community member, and that is a collaboration through the food bank. That takes place on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11:30 until about 12:30 or 1 o'clock. We also have our food distribution at the Lompoc Valley Center as well on Thursdays at 2:30. And I will pass it over to Andy for technology updates.
All right, hi everyone. I'm Andy Specht. I'm the Director of Information Technology Services at Hancock College. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some technology changes we've had on campus as well as what resources we have available for you. So a few weeks ago, when the college made the decision to move many of its classes online and also move many of our staff members to working from home, we realized we were going to need a big push to make sure that students and employees had the equipment that they needed to work from home or to take their classes from home as well. So we immediately started a laptop lending program for students, and over 250 students have signed up so far to receive a laptop, and we've handed out 200 laptops to students at this point. So it is continuing through Wednesday. The process we try to make as easy as possible. You fill out a short form online and then come to one of the times that we've set up for students, either at the Lompoc campus or at Santa Maria. And once you fill out the form, you can pick up a laptop, and the last 2 days available are Tuesday and Wednesday from 1 to 3. So if you are a student and you still need a laptop, please go online, fill out that form, and then come either Tuesday and Wednesday and pick one up. At the same time, we've also been making sure that our faculty and staff have the equipment that they need to complete the work that they need from home, so either teaching courses or continuing their jobs. And we've sent over 100 laptops home with faculty and staff and other equipment as well. And I really want to acknowledge Jake Zent and the entire technical services team for putting in many hours imaging laptops, as well as standing outside and making sure that this equipment could get to the students and employees who needed it. At the same time, we have been transitioning so much of our classified and administrative workforce to working remotely and working from home, and this is something that is new for us. I think on an average day at the beginning of March, we had maybe 5 people at most who are using remote desktop or VPN to access our campus resources. By the end of March, we were looking at 115 connections a day, and that number keeps increasing. So in a short period of time, we have moved a lot of our employees, classified and administrative especially, to working from home and being able to connect into the network resources. As Noemi mentioned, we have our office extensions forwarding to employees who are working at home. So any extension that you've been able to dial in the past, you can continue to use while we are moving to our remote workforce. I wanted to highlight some of the new technologies we've been using. Not all these are new technologies. So one is a technology we're all familiar with from the last few years, Canvas, but that's become sort of the center of the universe for us. All courses now have a Canvas shell that is open, and we have some things connecting into that, like Cranium Cafe, where faculty are setting up online classrooms and counselors are setting up online appointments with students. We're all using Zoom. We all know and love it by now. We're using that both for courses as well as for our department meetings, councils, and committees. One new-ish thing that we are really promoting is using Microsoft OneDrive. So Microsoft OneDrive is cloud storage that's available to all students and employees, and everyone has a terabyte of space, which is way more space than basically any of us will ever use. So if you're a student who's having to use a new device or move around between devices, it's really a nice way to keep your work all in one spot and have it accessible to you. As long as you have an internet connection, you can work on those documents through OneDrive. And we have an icon for that in the myHancock portal. And then finally, we're using Microsoft Teams on the employee side of the house to stay connected with our departments. You know, even though we don't see each other every day, we have chats set up in Teams as well as documents that we can collaboratively work on. So it's a nice way to stay in touch with your colleagues, even when you can't see them in person. I wanted to say a few words about security. I know I can't do a presentation without talking about security, so I won't make this an exception. The one big thing that we have to think about when working from home is to make sure that if you're working with student or employee data, that data stays on Hancock machines. So if you're using remote desktop to connect to your work computer from home, make sure that employee or student data stays on that machine. Or if you're borrowing a Hancock device, make sure that the data stays on that device. It doesn't end up on your personal laptop or another thing that you have at home. One quick thing on Wi-Fi. Most of us have password protected Wi-Fi at home, but if you're not sure about it, double check, make sure you have a password on your Wi-Fi so not just anyone who's driving by your house can connect to your network. As always, stay alert for any sort of phishing or scam emails. I know this is a time of crisis across the world, so there's people looking for opportunities, and I think we're also a little more likely to try to help people. I know a lot of things have to be done quickly these days, but take a few seconds, double check, make sure it's coming from an @hancockcollege.edu address. If you're not sure about it, give the person a call, make sure it's actually them, it's actually a legitimate request. And then lastly, just maintain all the good security practices that you had in the office at home. So make sure to lock your computer when you leave it. Don't leave passwords on sticky notes. All the great things that you did in the office, continue doing at home. Finally, I want to talk about where you can go to find help. So if you are an employee, the best spot to go is to the technology page on myHancock. Look for the little robot and open up a help desk ticket. The reason that this is the best spot is because we have a high volume of requests and things we're working on now. And if you open up a ticket, this makes sure that we have a record of it, we can track it, and that it gets to the person who can work on it for you. So this helps us prevent any requests from slipping through the cracks. So please open a help desk ticket if you have something for ITS to work on. For students who are borrowing laptops, we have a special page for them. When we handed out the laptops, they got a QR code on a piece of paper they can scan that will take them to a website that has some helpful resources as well as a place that they can submit questions or requests. So that information is available to students borrowing equipment. I also want to highlight the COVID page on the public website. That is a great resource with lots of information on technology and other things relevant to both employees and students. And finally, we're all going to have to collaborate with each other on this. I think we've all learned a new technology or 5 new technologies in the last month. So, if you have a question about Cranium Cafe and one of your colleagues is great at that, reach out to them. Or if you're awesome with Zoom and one of your colleagues is struggling, reach out to them and offer any assistance you can. So we're all going to have to step up and become technology mentors and teachers to the extent that we can. And I think if we embrace this opportunity to collaborate and work together, we'll have a lot of successes this semester. I think that takes me to the end. Back to Dr. Walters. I'll leave you the hand sanitizer.
You take yours, I have my own. I'm packing. We've all got our hand sanitizer. So my new favorite word is robot.
That's an easy one.
No, I know, but it looks cool. There's more to that story. You have to come see me or Julia later. So we've done a couple of things, and we've been doing a lot of planning for emergency preparedness, and I can tell you, talking to my colleagues, we're way ahead of many colleges in the state, and a lot of that has to do with our leadership from our police chief and Tom Way, Mike Messina, that we've been working with. One of the places that we probably should have done some better work was really defining essential workers and essential staffing, the very core things. We've got it all worked out now, but as we go forward, we're going to have to take a look at how we define those definitions, probably put them into job descriptions so that, if we have another crisis, or more accurately, when we have another crisis, we don't have to spend a lot of time putting all that data together. We'll already have it organized. If you have questions about essential staffing, talk to your manager, your dean, vice president, call HR. There's a decision tree that shows how the work is decided. And there's some new rules, and they're very complex, they're very complicated, and Ruben Ramirez has a really good handle on that. We couldn't figure out how to get him into Zoom and keep our interpretation services going. So what we're trying to do is we're determining, is a person part of the essential functions of the college, which is the core operations, or are they part of the other operations? And then we determine, can the work be done remotely? Once you determine on both sides, how can that work be done remotely? And you go right down a flow chart, and if your work can't be done remotely, then we have some other opportunities for you so that you don't have to take leave, you don't have to get into your leave balances. There's plenty of training online, there's lots of things we can do. Similarly for our student workers, they can work on-site or remotely. We're having them make phone calls, they're helping with the food share program. We have a lot of good opportunities for our student workers as well. And some of our short-term folks might qualify for some additional leave that came in under the Family First Coronavirus Relief Act. So if you have questions about that, talk to your dean, talk to your administrator, or shoot Ruben an email in HR. We are going to go through a recruiting period. We had actually already been talking about doing Zoom interviews so that we could actually get better access for candidates, especially when we're looking at equity issues. How can we expect candidates to pay $1,000 out of their own pocket to come just for a first round interview? So we want to move to the Zoom. We're still working on what we're going to do with the faculty hiring. That's become a little more complicated as we go forward. But for some critical positions that we have right now, we are going to do some Zoom interviews and try to get those positions hired. There's plenty of professional development. Remember that we are required to do sexual harassment training by January of 2021. I hope that's right. Ruben's shaking his head on the video. But there's plenty of training for us. If we can get that done, there's no reason that we shouldn't be at 100% when that deadline hits. we've all got a little bit of time to make that happen. So you can contact HR if you want a more general answer. The email address ahchr@hancockcollege.edu. All of the staff in HR are checking that check that address, and they forward it to the right person to make sure you can get the information you need. We're down to the end. Did we answer all the questions? Yes. We got all the questions answered. Carmen confirms. So again, I want to say thank you to everybody. This has been an amazing time, obviously, for everyone. And we've had so many people in the community that have emailed me, texted me, had Zoom meetings, and they want to know what's going on at the college. And I'm proud to tell them that we're at the college, we're still serving students, we're helping them get financial aid, we're helping them in EOPS and CARE and CalWorks, and we're helping them through CalSOAP, and we're helping them in our counseling areas. That during this time we're not just sitting around watching Netflix. We're actually serving students. We're actually making sure that students are ready to transfer. We're making sure that students are ready to start their careers. I can't thank our faculty and staff enough, and I can't thank our administrators enough. If you would have seen some of the administrators on Friday afternoon, we all look like we hadn't slept in about 4 days, and there's probably a little bit of truth to that. So I know there's a lot of us out here who are tired. We've got 7 weeks for this semester. We're going to do some planning. We're going to keep a sense of normalcy. College Council is today at 2:30. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. We're going to do business as usual. We're going to do some planning on our educational master plan. Al Solano is going to come and join us via Zoom and do a little bit of training with us there. So if you want to tune in to College Council, just go to the website and you can find the link for that, and we'll let you into the meeting. So with that, we're going to say thank you for watching. Keep working for our students, and if you have any issues at all, you know who to contact. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.